you want me to wait for him?
No, go ahead.
Okay. I will call the regular Osage Beach Planning and Zoning meeting for July to order. Roll call, please.
Alan Blair,
Here.
Tony Kern,
Here.
Nancy Sully,
Here.
Mayor Don Aubrey,
Here.
Kelly Schuman,
Here.
Tony Kern,
Here.
Alderman Bob Osteen,
Here.
Chairman Susan Devlin,
Here.
Jeff Dorhauer,
Okay, are there any comments on the minutes from the May 11th meeting? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second? We have a motion and a second. We don't have to, all those in favor on that, do we?
Yeah, we do.
No, all those in favor, aye.
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 Thank you. I think I will skip our reading of what the planning and zoning does tonight, and we will do our Pledge of Allegiance. Instead, is that little spot?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
New business, first order of business is rezoning case 414. It's a request by Platinum 3 Investments for recommendation to approve rezoning of their property at the end of Passover from C1 to C1B. Carrie?
Yes, Mrs. Chairman. As she said, this is a request by Platinum 3 Investments. This particular property, we'll just start with the history of this particular piece. This particular piece was formerly the home of Mike's Resort. It is a piece of property located basically all the way down at the end of Passover Road. At the time the city was rezoned, or was zoned initially back in the 80s, the majority of the property was zoned C1 General Commercial because all of the resorts at the time were zoned C1 General Commercial, except for the 2 acres that were on the frontage of the water, which were zoned R1B at the time. In 1995, Ken Carpenter, the previous owner of the property, came to the city and requested a rezoning of that 2 acres from R1B to C1 for the purposes of either resort expansion or for the construction of condominiums. Okay, and as we know, with the last couple of months of some of our cases that we've looked at, the city of Osage Beach took condominiums as a permitted use out of the C1 General Commercial Zone and put it in the C1B zone in order to protect properties functionally that were zone C1, had lakefront, but were also corridor properties, much like Topsider that we've seen recently. Lake Chateau would be another one that we've seen a couple years ago, in order to give the city the opportunity to have a say in what goes on those particular pieces. This piece that we're looking at here is located at the end of Passover Road. It is between the Parkview Towers and the World Mark condominiums. It's a situation that I can tell you that from the time that I have been here, it has been expected that this would develop as a condominium development. We knew that it would. So every set of plans, everything that we have done from the time that I've been here in 1999 going forward was use the expectation of 170 units going on this particular piece of property. Okay, that would be the maximum density that would be allowed there. So when we did the reconstruction of Passover Road, that was taken into account. When we extended water and sewer and did upgrades on water and sewer down Passover Road, that was part of that. And so quite candidly, this is a situation to where I know that the property was purchased 10 years ago with the ideology of putting condominiums on there. But of course, 10 years ago was when things kind of hit the fan and people stopped developing for some time. At this point now, the city of Osage Beach and the lake area in general is seeing a much higher demand for not just condominiums, but any kind of residential unit that people can get their hands on. I know our real estate market down here is hot as it can be, with not a whole lot for the real estate agents to sell at this point. And so that's what we're looking at today, is a request really to rezone this property to the use that we would customarily believe that it was going to be. The comprehensive plan does call for this piece of property to be high-density residential, as it does the rest of the properties surrounding it. So it makes sense to go ahead and make this change to something that the city has been planning for some time. So with that, I would recommend approval to you of this request.
Would the applicant or representative like to present any further information or clarify anything at this time? No? Okay. Is there anyone in the audience that's here to speak in or in opposition of or ask any questions? Okay. Come on up. Introduce yourself and sign in, please.
My name is Melissa Lyons. I live at Waterside 1, which is in the same complex as Wyndham Resorts
Yep.
at Worldmark. I am new to the area. I recently purchased Waterside 1, Unit 1A, in January from Southern California, so I'm a transplant. And so I have some questions. So I've heard some rumors, right, from everywhere. The original developers, I believe, from the towers or whatnot, they came into financing issues regarding the towers. And so apparently those are recently, in the process of being completed after a number of years. Are there any guarantees with financing in general with this developer from start to finish, the proposed plan with all of these units? And just as a side note, based on my dealings with Waterside 1 and Thomas Construction, with them being at a deficit with their budget, which came about after I purchased my unit, there's some shortcomings in general. So just financing in general, are there any guarantees of the community that this project will be finished within deadline or within a reasonable amount of time within the projected deadline?
Well, what I would say at this point is we're not to the development phase yet. We are just looking at what the appropriate use of the property is. So if we rezone this from C1 to C1B, the function of what can go there now would be anything from hotels to possible lakefront bars, marinas, that type of thing currently. We're just looking at the land use itself. We're not actually, deciding on the development, the developer. So the basics of what I'm telling you is that any rumors that you heard, number one, I would suppose would just be rumors. But two, there's not necessarily a guarantee that the developer that you've been hearing of will develop this property, though, it's likely that they will. They own the property currently. But from the function of are there guarantees, when it comes to development, the only thing that the city can require guarantees on is our actual infrastructure, the service infrastructure that would go to the development. Whatever ends up happening between a developer and their financing institution or any of their partners or whatever, that is a private sector situation that really the city doesn't have any say in. So we can handle and we can control and assure roads, water, sewer, sidewalks, those things. But as far as the actual buildings going up and how they're built, we can't assure that they are completed. But what we do assure is that they are completed to code and approved and given a certificate to occupy before anyone can live in them.
Okay.
So that's where the city has regulatory authority.
Okay, and that actually, thank you for mentioning just the infrastructure in general, with sewage, possibly street widening, because right now there's no sidewalks at the end of Passover, and I'm a frequent walker. I walked 5 miles today, but I'm walking the street. So to a certain extent, there's no sidewalk. So what is the city's plan on trying to accommodate 170 units, which at minimum is going to be 2 occupants per unit?
Right. Well, anything that has to be improved of the city's service infrastructure, water, sewer, roads, sidewalks, in order to, serve this particular development will have to be done by the developer. That's the way it is with every development that comes in. So if you're going to put in, if he's, at this point, I think what they're talking is 90 condominium units, but a total of 170 could be put on the property. Once we go through and we start, looking at the engineering and all of the engineering plans and our engineers review, if there's anything that needs to be done by way of improvements, including a sidewalk, which, if you're going to put a condominium down at the end of the road, you're definitely going to want to, put a sidewalk in that will accommodate those folks. I can tell you that Mr. Van Stavern has, done the Passover and Passover Towers, and he was adamant of having sidewalks that went down to those developments so they could serve his buyers there. So I don't know that, that would be any different with what he's wanting to do here. I mean, the sidewalks are definitely an amenity that people want. So I can tell you quite candidly that it was just some right-of-way and easement acquiring issues that we had with the previous owner that kept it from being done already.
Okay. So hypothetically, if the rezoning doesn't pass, what would be the next plan of action with the owner? I mean, do we know at this point?
No,
Okay.
no. I
Okay.
mean, we
So,
don't.
Is part of the proposal to include a hotel and restaurants and things like that, like Topsider? Because my impression, and from my understanding, is Topsider was the exception, because I believe Osage Beach had basically like a stay with new condominium developments, and one of the conditions with Topsider was that they had to build a hotel because there is a lack of, hotels in the area in general.
No. This is a far different situation. The Topsider development is actually fronting on Osage Beach Parkway, so it's on a thoroughfare. It can handle greater amounts of commercial traffic. Passover Road was built to handle multifamily, residential development or high-density development, but not necessarily hotel or restaurant development down towards the end. That is not something, one, they can't do restaurants, especially anything that's like lakefront with, outdoor entertainment or anything, without coming back to this group for an E-overlay. And two, it's just not something that I believe that this group or the Board of Aldermen would entertain, in that general area. That is a high-density residential with even some moderate-density residential right there. So it's a great location for some condos, not a great location for those other high-intensity uses. That's why that's why this is a good request from everybody's perspective.
Yeah, absolutely, because it ends,
Yes,
there's no
no.
way, and so it
We
makes
didn't,
sense.
like I said, the city has been planning with everything that we have done by way of improvements down to that location for this to be a condominium development for the 23 years that I've been here. Having something more intense like what you're talking about is not something that we've planned for, and certainly would like to have the opportunity to relieve, that area of. So that's why this is a positive. C1 is our least restrictive zone.
Okay. Is there any type of EPA reports or anything like that with potential pollution, whether it's in the air or water, with the increase of, residential dwellings?
No, we don't have requirements for that, but I mean, multifamily residential isn't going to spike any concerns as it pertains to any of the EPA or DNR's, regulations.
So the initial proposal by the developer is 90 units. So it's max 170 units. So is there some type of plan after the 90 units to expand? 'Cause I read something about 55-year-old plus accommodation.
All the developer just mentioned is that it's possible that they might look at some 55 and older units that would be up the hill that would finish out, could finish out some of their density allowance. But I can tell you at this point, there's no plans for that are in the near future. And, you're talking about a condo build out that will be, probably several years, so.
Okay. When would be the proposal to break ground? I mean, if the rezoning passes, things like that.
Well, they will have to come in with their building plans and their, basically their land development plans that would basically go through our engineers, building department and planning departments for review. And of course, when you start talking about roads, water, sewer, sidewalks, those would be the first things that we would review and work with their contract engineer. to
I'm
make
just
sure.
concerned about the amount of units. I mean, we're looking at least 180 more people, permanent residents potential, and rentals and things like, I mean, my building is slated for rental, but I'm a full-time resident. You know, I mean, that may not always stand, but, you know, there's gonna be an increased amount of traffic. So as long as, you know, the city's geared up for the amount of traffic down there.
That road was built to handle and can handle the amount that would be going into this development.
Okay,
And I can tell you that because, you know, I'm the one who provided all of the future capacity density allowances for that area when we did the design for Passover Road.
Okay.
So it was designed for it.
okay, thanks. That's all I have for now. All right.
Thank you. Anyone else? Commissioners, questions, comments? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion to approve and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Do you have any other reports or anything for us?
No, Mr. Chairman, I don't really. You know, I guess you will start seeing some new development in town. If you haven't been through town, you would have already seen some new stuff going on. So, we've been busy. One of the things that we do know is that, development capital, is on its way down to a more normal price. So you can buy wood and lumber and all of those things for a better price than what it was, say, a couple, 2 or 3 months ago. So that's a positive for everyone involved. And I know all of our engineers are busy, and surveyors are 4 to 6 weeks out, so we're very active. and
I'd like to know
very
who's
active.
4 to 6 weeks out and not 3 to 4 months out, at least.
Well, yeah, yeah, yep. But that's all I have.
Okay, all right, meeting adjourned.
Oh, I know. I tell you, that's great for them. They got into the business at the right time.
They are busy.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm at least 6 or 8 to 10 right now for surveying.